If you feel like your money disappears right after you get your paycheck or before you even get paid, just know that you're not alone because I have been there before. Living paycheck to paycheck, feeling overwhelmed by debt, and also feeling like I wasn't in control of my money, and also thinking to myself, where was all of my money going? Although I still live paycheck to paycheck, I feel more in control of my money and I have better awareness around how to manage my finances. Ever since I discovered zero based budgeting, it has been a real game changer because it has completely transformed how I approach my personal finances. In this video, I'm going to be breaking down what zero based budgeting is and show you exactly how it works and give you my free zero based budgeting spreadsheet so that you can implement it effortlessly. So, what is zero based budgeting? Let me break it down simply. Zero based budgeting is a system of budgeting whereby you give every single dollar that you earn a job. You are planning your dollars out in advance, planning for the future ahead, and ensuring that every dollar has a purpose. It's your income minus your expenses equals zero. It's that simple. You are ensuring that every single dollar has a purpose. It's not about restricting yourself, but it's about being intentional with your money so that you're no longer guessing or wondering where your money went, but rather you know exactly where your money is going. And the best part is that it doesn't have to be complicated and you don't have to be an expert at math or spreadsheets to get started. I have created a simple yet powerful and free zero based budgeting spreadsheet for you to download that does all of the heavy lifting for you. Today, I'm going to be walking you through a tutorial on how to use my zero based budgeting spreadsheet and how to edit and customize it to fit your life. Quick disclaimer, I am not a financial advisor. This is just the system that worked best for me as I got started on my financial freedom journey. Always do your research and figure out what works best for you and your personal financial situation. Now that you have downloaded my zero based budgeting spreadsheet, to get started, you're first going to want to hit File and make a copy so that way you can go ahead and make edits and changes. Go ahead and save it under whatever name you would like. Now, before you get started, if this is your very first time budgeting, it is a good idea to sit down and take a look at all of your expenses. First, take a look at your fixed expenses, meaning the bills that you know are going to get taken out every single month or every paycheck. This usually includes your rent or your mortgage, your utilities, electrical bill, phone bill, internet bill, all of those that are expected to come out every paycheck or every month. Then go ahead and take a look at your variable expenses. These are expenses that vary each month or each paycheck, and you might not be paying these every single time. But go ahead and take a look at all of your expenses, sit down, look at all of your bank accounts, and then take a look at what your debt is. You're going to want to sit down and look at your credit cards and any debt that you owe so you have a full understanding of what your personal finances look like. Also, take a look at your subscriptions. This is a good way to eliminate things that you are spending money on that are unnecessary or subscriptions that you don't even realize that you're using and could easily cancel. Once you have taken a few hours to fully assess all of your finances and your spending habits, looking at all of your bank accounts and financially assess where you're at, make sure to write it all down so that you can enter your categories of spending. I personally like to put my fixed expenses at the top, and then I like to add my variable expenses towards the bottom, along with my subscriptions, and then my miscellaneous spending, and then even my savings or sinking funds accounts. That is how I would recommend doing it, so that way you can kind of go through and pay your bills at the beginning and then adjust from there as needed as you continue to enter your expenses. The next column is our category of spending. Our category of spending helps us to track the categories in which we are spending our money. For instance, you can see my categories of spending set up as household utilities, groceries, transportation and gas, subscriptions, investments, debt and student loans, other, health, shopping, eating out, savings, and future expenses. Now you can edit these and change these as you would like so that it is customized to your lifestyle and your spending habits. This is personally what works for me. I would recommend that you keep your categories of spending not so granular and not so specific when you're first starting out. It's better just to kind of have more broader categories so that you keep it more simple and you're not confused and overwhelmed. You can go ahead and edit by clicking this edit button. And then here you can take a look at your drop down, which is what we have. Here's all of the categories, and you can go ahead and add another item if you have another category of spending, and then you can edit your colors from here. I personally like to customize my colors and change what it looks like so that it's cute. And then from there, you will just go ahead and click done to save, and you'll hit apply to all. And then here you can just select and change your categories. Now it is important to make sure that you are selecting the correct categories of spending because it is going to impact our pivot table over here. Let's move on to our planned amount. Column C is for our planned expenses. Now I use this column when I am planning out my next paycheck. I think typically most of us know if we are hourly or salary, what we bring in on a bi-weekly or monthly basis. If you do not know your income, I suggest making sure that you're looking at your paycheck or pay stubs and seeing what is it that you typically bring in so that you are not guessing as to what your income is and you can more easily plan out your expenses. Since I'm a salary employee, I know that my income is $2,045.35 pretty much every paycheck that I get, which is semi-monthly. This normally doesn't really fluctuate, so I have my income entered at the top. Now with my income in mind, I can easily plan out what my expenses are. So for this example here, you can see that I did not pay rent or utilities. However, if I were paying rent or utilities, I would just enter what my typical rent is. For me, it's $362.50 because I live in rural Montana and I split my rent with my partner. So I would enter that. Now, we are going to see as we enter at the very bottom, this is showing you all of your expenses that you have entered here, deducted from your total income amount, leaving you with your leftover amount. Obviously, if it's in the negative, this means that we have gone over budget. We have spent more than what our income is. And so we need to then adjust in our expenses and move around the numbers or adjust the numbers for how we are allocating our money. So that way we get our budget, our remaining budget to be zero. Remember, we are assigning every dollar that we have earned a job, so that way we have $0 left over. This doesn't mean that you don't have any money in your bank account. This just means that every dollar that you have earned has been assigned and we know where it's going. I'm going to go back up here and delete the rent from this planned amount because as you can see in this example, I have entered all of my expenses and my prospective or projected budget is going to be zero. Now, this is as if I was planning my paycheck in advance, which I do after every payday. I plan for the next paycheck. However, when it comes time for actual payday, I am then coming in and budgeting for my actual expenses. Now, the time between you planning out your expenses and you actually getting paid will mean that your expenses will likely be adjusted a bit. This could mean that an unexpected expense comes up, so you have to manually manipulate and adjust your numbers accordingly, so that way you are staying within your budget and you are not spending beyond your income or your paycheck amount and your remaining budget after you have entered all of your actual expenses for the pay period come out to zero. Now, as you can see, my income was the same as I had predicted, and then I entered all of my expenses. But for instance, here, my car insurance, this changed, and it is showing a difference of $11.17 from what I projected I would be budgeting for over here in the planned amount versus what was actually charged to my account. Now, the way I look at this is when I get paid, some items are taken out around my pay date. For instance, I get paid on the 15th of each month and the last day of each month. Some bills are taken out around that date or the date after. And then I go ahead and continue to enter the rest of my bills that I know will be taken out that specific pay period. And whatever money is still remaining here, for instance, let's just eliminate the $100 in shopping. I have entered, for example, all of my other expenses, but I have $100 left over that has not been given a job. It has not been allocated. I have $100 left to spend or to make purposeful. So this is where I came in and decided, you know what? I think I might budget $100 for shopping. I'm not exactly sure what I might be spending this on, but I know the money is there in case I need it. And even if you don't exactly spend this $100, you might find later on as the week continues or as the days pass by, you only spent $80 in your shopping category, leaving you with $20 left over. And so you can apply that $20 in any of your other categories. Maybe you decide, oh, you know what? I can actually put that extra $20 in my car maintenance fund. And then you are then coming back to having $0 remaining, which is what you want, because that means you've given every dollar a job. I hope that was clear. In column C, you are planning out after you get paid what you project your expenses will be for your next pay period. And then once you get paid, you should the same day or at least the very next day come in and enter your actual expenses for that pay period and plan out the money for that specific pay period. Then in column E, you have the difference. This is showing you the difference between your planned amount versus your actual spend. Like I mentioned, I have the formula set up to subtract D6, the items here, from what we had planned in column C, giving you what is left over. So for instance, here I went over budget by $111.92, and this just helps you to see and keep track of your spending habits essentially. I think it's good just to recognize, oh, you know what? I went over last pay period on my grocery shopping. This is what I want to avoid next pay period. I want to not go over and try to stay under budget or at budget for groceries. So I think adding this column was really helpful, and it's just a nice glance to see what the difference is in what you planned versus what you actually spent, and then seeing where you are easily over or under budget. Just a reminder that we always want line 30 to be at 0 because we want to make sure that we have allocated every dollar. If you need to add an expense, go ahead and insert a row above. But you'll want to make sure that when you do insert a row, like we added 22, this means we have 30 rows in total. We just want to make sure that it's all being accounted for. So it is showing here that only everything that is in purple is being accounted for. So we want to adjust it and make sure that it's coming all the way down, and even our savings and sinking funds are being taken into account when we are doing our zero-based budget. So instead of just taking into consideration rows C3 up to C23, I want to make sure that it's coming all the way down to C30. So we're just gonna delete that and put 30 and hit enter. So that way when we are entering everything, all of these lines that are expenses are being subtracted from our total income. The same goes for here. You'll want to adjust here if it's not showing all of these rows being calculated. Now, I set up a pivot table because I wanted to be able to easily see my spending categories versus my planned amounts versus my actual spending. And so what we're seeing here is down here is my income, my total income, which we have up here. You can kind of just ignore this here in the pivot table. There wasn't really a way to exclude this from the pivot table. So that's why you're seeing the income here. But mainly, we just want to look at here so that we have a side by side of our planned versus our actual spend. Using this pivot table gives us this chart, this bar chart, which is also just another way of seeing at an easy glance where are we spending the most money in our categories. For me, this was highest in transportation, highest in groceries, as well as other expenses for this pay period. This pivot table is aggregating the data from over here. It's really important to make sure that you are categorizing everything correctly. For instance, if I were to change my category here for my health expenses to groceries, you will see that it is also affecting over here and changing the pivot table as well as the chart, and showing then that we spent $531.92 on groceries. But because I want to make sure that I'm categorizing everything correctly, I'm going to change that back to health. I also want to note that I will be adding an instructions tab down here where I will be putting the instructions for how to use this spreadsheet. You can use the instructions for further assistance as well. As you can see down here, these are our different sheets, and I like to put my sheets by paycheck or pay period. So because I get paid on the 15th and the last day of the month, that is how I have my sheets labeled for each pay period. You can go ahead and do the same thing if you know when you get paid, or if you get paid bi-weekly, you can put the month and the date in which you're getting paid, or you can also do it by month if you want to. For me, it's just easier to look at it per paycheck because it's hard to fully plan the entire month ahead. Rather, it's easier for me to take about 2 weeks at a time when planning my finances. This is pretty much how I go about my zero-based budget. I think it's really important to start out simply when you are first getting started and not overwhelming yourself. I have tried several different ways to track my expenses, and for me, zero-based budgeting works the best. I have also used YNAB and other platforms in the past, but I think when you're just getting started, using a simple, beginner-friendly Google spreadsheet is one of the best ways to get started. You can see that I have planned this out till the end of the year for you. And if you want to make more going into 2026, you can just go ahead and hit duplicate. Or if you want to create a whole separate 2026 spreadsheet, which I will probably do, I would also do file, make a copy again, and then label it for 2026, and then begin budgeting for the upcoming year when you get to like January. So I hope that this was helpful. If there are any questions you have, please feel free to leave them down in the comments. I am happy to answer your questions. If there's anything that is not working or that is not clear, please also feel free to leave that down in the comments. I am happy to make adjustments and to make changes or to make updates so that way it is most useful for you and it is most efficient and effective. I really hope this walkthrough showed you just how simple and powerful taking control of your money can be. Remember that it is about progress over perfection. When you are first getting started with budgeting, it might not go as planned and it might feel a little bit messy, but the most important part is that you get started. The link to my zero-based budgeting spreadsheet can be found in the description below. I would also love it if you would share in the comments any tips or advice you have when it comes to budgeting, as I believe we can always learn from one another. If you found this video helpful at all, I would greatly appreciate it if you would support this channel by giving this video a thumbs up and subscribing so that you don't miss any of my future uploads. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.